Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth, and fancy seeing you here in June. A very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down, no touching. I don't do the touching. And welcome to Big Mouth, and I'm Mick Meanus, and I'm going to try and explain to you what is the Joker movie. The film I saw a test screening of months ago. I'm a massive DC fan. If you're new to the channel, please do subscribe and comment down below so we can become mates and have a chat as well. I am very, very excited for all of you to see this film. Do you know what? I was on Twitter earlier, and there's people talking about this film who wouldn't touch a comic book movie adaptation if their life depended on it. And that's what's just so amazing about this whole situation. What Walter Hamada and Todd Phillips have done here with the Black Label is something extremely special. And you just know, when people who don't go to see comic book adaptations are going to see it, you know the box office and the acclaim is going to be massive. So, exactly, what is this film? Everyone is so intrigued because they're not quite sure. Todd Phillips, the writer, the co-writer, director, has been trying to talk about it. But it's violent. It can be there's sex in this film, but really that's just garnish, the violence and all of that. This show has politics in it, but it isn't preachy. But basically, this is an R-rated Gone with the Wind. Hold up if you think that sounds boring. Gone with the Wind is a film that starts from a certain point of view. So the main character, Scarlett, is a spoiled, rich girl, right? But by the end of the film, she goes through all this shit, and by the end of it, she becomes something else. And this is what happens to Arthur Fleck, aka this Elseworlds Joker. Now, what does Elseworlds mean? Well, DC Comics have got plenty of Elseworlds stories, which basically means it isn't the main Joker. In comics, and even in Marvel, but especially in DC, there are multiverses. There are different versions to Earth, thousands and thousands, in fact, that all these characters exist on, but are totally different, but again, quite the same. So it's not that complicated. So this is a parallel Earth Joker, right? So they're not going to go and talk about parallel Earths in this film, but he's not the Earth One Joker. At the moment, the Elseworld Joker, should I say, is Jared Leto. I think that will change very quickly. And I think even this version of the Joker could become the... I don't know. I kind of suspect that they'll keep him as the Elseworlds Joker. But anyway, let's talk about now. So basically what happens is Arthur Fleck is, in the beginning of the film, a pretty nice guy. I'm not going to give you spoilers. I'm just basically going to feed you what you see in the teaser trailer, what's playing behind me, right? He's an ordinary, nice guy, but he has severe mental health trauma. He does. And he's looking after his mum the best that he can. And he comes across a very simple character because of his issues. But he's also quite intelligent and quite perceptive as well. And that's very important to understand. So he looks after his mother, who's extremely ill, but he's also going to see a shrink, a psychiatrist, whatever you want to call it, a counsellor. So he's, and you see it in the trailer. Does it help to talk about it? And he looks really disturbed, doesn't he? So already you can see he's a hugely disturbed young man. It's as simple as that. And so what happens as the film goes on? His mother's always told him, as you see in the teaser trailer, to put a smile on his face. This we already know with people who suffer with mental health. I've had my problems, and being told to smile and be happy, and people thinking by smiling and being happy you haven't got mental health problems anymore, is just so gullible. And look, they don't understand because they don't go through it. So anyway, this guy is suffering big time. You know, this film is set, in the late 70s, 80s, whatever it's set in, right? So basically what happens is he wants to become a comedian to fulfill his mother's wishes, really, of making people smile. That's what he wants. So he's got an open heart, Arthur Fleck. He wants to get through each day. He wants to look after his mum, and he wants to become a comedian. But as things get on, he realises that people keep on kicking him and kicking him, sometimes literally and physically, sometimes emotionally and psychologically. And slowly, slowly, the more he's kicked. And I think there's a moment in the film where his mother's told him something which has made him really, really happy because he really thinks he belongs to something special. And when he finds out it's a lie, it's the final straw, and it sets him off to this destiny of becoming the Joker. And as I say, there are political elements to this film. And really, this is about one man who starts as a very simple, everyday guy who literally lives in the gutter. Nobody knows him, nobody cares about him. But slowly, slowly, while becoming the Joker, he raises the Joker army and he creates a revolution which nobody can stop in Gotham City. And as I say, this is why I say he's really perceptive. You see, when he psychologically breaks within the film, it's not a break in the sense of, I can't go on, I'm just going to give up. This is what inspires him to become what he does. And this is what I mean, an R-rated Gone with the Wind. He starts as this weak, mentally challenged young man looking after his mother. And in the end, he becomes this psychotic, heckling, he's a gangster, really, I suppose you could call him. Again, I'm not giving anything away. Todd Phillips has already spoken about this. And that, in its essence, is what the Joker is. But there is commentary towards mental health. There is commentary about how you treat your public, how governments treat their public, and how governments and society create monsters like Arthur Fleck. And Arthur Fleck becomes a very, very dangerous monster because, as I say, he's perceptive, he's intelligent, and it's such a refreshing film. As I say, it's in my top 10 of all-time movies. And I've said this before, it's just amazing. The pride I have within this film, the pride I have and respect for Todd Phillips, but for Martin Scorsese, who put all this together. Without Martin Scorsese, there's no Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro is in this film. Without Martin Scorsese, you don't get Todd Phillips. Martin Scorsese, Todd Phillips, and obviously Walter Hamada at the very top, have created something extremely special. And I don't think that's going to change now and Sarnos come in. This is something that's happening. And I think it goes well as an opposite to the DCEU, which will do different types of movies, mainly for families, mainly what the MCU are doing, but they will be more standalone. So I think what Warner Brothers and DC are doing by creating the Black Label, they're giving you a choice. Do you like, uplifting, bright-coloured movies, or do you want to see dark and gritty and compelling and violent and sexualized movies? It's up to you. And this was the argument originally with the DCU. People complaining that it was too violent, too gritty, too depressing. I never saw it that way. For me, Man of Steel and Batman v Superman are extremely compelling, intellectual, brilliant movies. In fact, they're the Joker movie, if you like. And people didn't like that. Well, now DC and Warner Brothers are saying, do you know what? You can have your Marvelized type of movies. We're Warner Brothers, so we're going to do a better job at it. You're going to remember our movies. They're not just going to be generic load of crap. But we're going to give you a choice here. The Black Label will be available to you if you like something a bit darker, a bit grittier, a bit like Batman v Superman and Man of Steel. So all of a sudden, because there's one thing you need to understand. Warner Brothers love Man of Steel as films. Warner Brothers love Batman v Superman. They are extremely proud of these films. And the only reason Sugihara sacked Snyder is because of the situation. It became impossible. He didn't deal with it properly. But we mustn't forget that Sugihara, and I know how we all feel about the way he treated Zack Snyder, but it was him who brought in Walter Hamada. And it was a genius move. He knew something had to be done, and he did it. The way he treated Zack is wrong, but I do feel that Sugihara was a great CEO. I just think the problem was what he did with Justice League and what he did with Zack Snyder. Basically, Sugihara cracked. He cracked under the pressure. It was an immense pressure where the Warner Brothers shareholders wanted the DCEU to make over $1 billion a movie, to be beloved by everyone. And what happened, it was the opposite. The first two movies were extremely divisive. Some people loved them like me, and some people hated them. And that's no good for a mainstream movie franchise, which is what the DCEU was created to be. But it wasn't because this is Warner Brothers and they want to make real movies and they want to cause debate and they want to make compelling movies and they want the director to have a freedom of creativity. And that's what Zack had for Man of Steel, thanks to Christopher Nolan. But as they were getting under pressure from bloggers and pundits and critics, they were acting unlike Warner Brothers. They were interfering with Batman v Superman. They were interfering with Suicide Squad. And the ultimate situation, the thing that built to a total collapse was the Justice League movie, which they got so involved, they were getting Snyder to rewrite it. They were so nervous. And in the end, they got rid of him because they just didn't see how they could do this. I mean, intelligently, maybe Snyder should have been moved over to DC Black Label. But hey, maybe they just felt that Zack Snyder was just not. He didn't have the reputation and the confidence of too many people. I know he has his fans, and I am a fan of Zack Snyder, by the way. So it's very difficult to kind of justify what happened with Justice League, BVS, and Suicide Squad, the interference, but they were under so much pressure that really it would have been difficult for any human being to make the right decision under that pressure. We know there were different ways of doing it, but I think when you're in that situation, and you know, for Warner Brothers, these franchises are really, really important. They've got similar issues with the Harry Potter franchise right now because they allowed J.K. Rowling, an author who really has no idea about films, to run the Harry Potter film universe now, and it's imploded. And they're going to have to look at, I don't know what they're going to do with that. I don't know if they're going to carry on allowing her to make these films. Maybe she's already signed the contracts and there's nothing they can do about it and they're just going to have to go through with this franchise now. I mean, I don't mind the Fantastic Beasts franchise, to be honest. But the problem, again, I don't want to talk about this too long because we're here to talk about Joker, but I think there you've got a prequel, and prequels are really, really difficult to pull off, as we know with the Star Wars prequels that I kind of enjoy. So going back to the Joker is an era-defining film. It comes at a time when Hollywood is being criticised for a lack of ambition and imagination. We've seen it with the MCU. Let's keep on making these same movies. They bring in money. We don't care. They don't care. But slowly, the MCU is imploding. We've seen what's happened this week. But all of a sudden, the DCEU, the DC world of movies, have been revitalised by Walter Hamada. The Black Label is evidence. You see, Walter Hamada doesn't stand at fan conventions behind a podium going, yeah, I'm Walter Hamada, I'm so cool, I'm going to give you some teasers and Easter eggs, yeah, and these ones are going to be in it and that one's going to be in it. That's not Walter Hamada's job. Walter Hamada's job is to create a great selection of DC movies that we can watch and watch and watch repeatedly for the next 20 or 30 years. And already, we've seen that. He came in, there was lots of rejigging between him and James Wan for Aquaman. Shazam is a great family movie. And now the Joker, the coup de grace of this era of DC movies, where they have created the Black Label, right? Now, I think the actual comics have a Black Label as well, to be fair. So they didn't come up with this on their own. But it's a great idea because, as I say, it gives the consumer a choice. And consumers should always have a choice. It shouldn't be, we've got to make films like Marvel. We've got to be Marvel. Warner Brothers don't know how to be Disney. Warner Brothers don't know how to be the MCU. They can't do it. They can't do it. It's not who they are. These are people who've made, for the past 50, 60, 70 years, have made refreshingly independent, clever, fantastic movies. And I can reel the movies off for you. You know, unless you're stuck in this kind of superhero modern-day bubble, CGI bubble, you're no Warner Brothers history. And this is why I have a love for Warner Brothers, despite what happened with Justice League, and I believe they'll fix that. I believe that they understand. And, you know, this is why I did this video, to also talk about this. I think they see the Snyder Cut as vital and important. I really do. And I feel this is why they've played the Snyder Cut release very cleverly. They know to get a Justice League 2, to rebuild this universe, they have to fix Justice League in a way. And by allowing the Snyder Cut to be released and maybe labelling it as the true Justice League movie, they can fix that problem. And it's going to be very interesting when it is released. And I have all the confidence now that the Snyder Cut will be released. The arguments that does it exist, doesn't it exist, are for people who don't think straight. We know it's real. The guy who directed it told us, one of the guys who was in it, Jason Momoa, told us it's real. He's seen it. The conversation is over. But I do believe that the Snyder Cut is a vital moment for Warner Brothers as well. But the Joker movie coming out in October, on October the 3rd, is a massive part of not just DC's film history, and it's a great history with, with the Christopher Reeve Superman films, even Bryan Singer's Superman Returns, Man of Steel. This is a very important moment, and to be able to have Joaquin Phoenix, an actor of his intelligence and hard work, he's been talking about how much weight he had to shed. He's been talking about how he hated his diet, but did it for the job. I mean, actors are great, aren't they? They really are. They really do get into their roles, but this is special. And you can feel there's a special moment here. You can feel that this film is extremely special. It's an extremely special moment, historic moment in Hollywood history, where a film comes out and changes everything. It's the same as, I suppose, Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight movie, where it didn't really change the industry, but for a little moment people were saying, yes, I want to see more films like this in this kind of franchises. And then everything changed for real with the first Avengers movie, Joss Whedon's first Avengers movie, Avengers Assemble, right? That changed everything. And we saw what the MCU have managed to achieve, juggling those balls by accident without dropping them, because everyone wanted more of the Avengers. And that's what they've got for so many years. But it's coming to an end, everyone. People are getting bored. I'm sure people still want to see more MCU movies, but I just don't want to see those type of movies. I want to be compelled. And when I saw the test screening for the Joker movie, I've never been compelled in the past 30, 40 years like I was watching that film. And it's a DC film. That's what's so special. As a DC fan, and what do I do here? Talk about DC movies. I have the privilege talking to you, the wonderful people who come in to watch my videos, whether it's 50 of you, 60 of you, 100 of you, maybe if I'm lucky, 200 views. Who cares? It's not the amount of people watching, it's the quality of people watching. And I know you're quality people from the discussions I have with you. And this is really great to be able to talk about this film, because this isn't just the latest DC movie. This is a movie that will change everything. And this movie is brilliant. And as Todd Phillips said, let's do something Disney are not willing to do, that Disney can't do, right? It's impossible for them to chase this. Even if they were able to do it via 20th Century Fox, they would suck at it. They don't know. They don't have what Warner Brothers has to make these kind of films. Warner Brothers are suited to making films like this. Now, I hear a lot of people saying, oh, all Walter Hamada's doing is implementing New Line Cinema, using all their directors, making cheap films on a budget. And people are saying, well, I'd rather see, the big CGI-heavy epic movies. You're going to get them. People trying to question if Wonder Woman is going to be a big CGI movie or if The Flash is going to be a big CGI movie. Both of them will. Both of them will. They know they have to do that. But again, you don't have to overload on CGI to have a great DCEU movie. What Walter Hamada are doing and New Line Cinema are doing is revolutionary. It's going to change how people want to see comic book superhero adaptations. It's going to change everything. And that does leave Disney with a conundrum. But as a DC fan, I'm not only proud, but I'm extremely excited. And if you're not excited within over a month away of a Joker movie, then are you really even a DC fan?